Good morning, friends, and welcome back to the channel. Yes, it's been a little while since we posted a video, but this morning, Brendan, Claudine, and I are hitting the road. Why, you ask? Well, a week ago today, we received a message from our son-in-law Noah that he was going to be having to work out of town for a week. So Shannon has opted to come visit us. We're on the road to meet them halfway in Pennsylvania at a little diner to pick up Shannon and Alpine and bring them home. Come along with us. So we're driving south, and you would think that the weather would get a little bit better as we go south. What is this stuff? Claudine does not like driving in snow. Well, we went through a section of really blowing snow, so much so that it got pretty white out in front of us and we couldn't see very well. But luckily the radar showed there was a clear patch behind it, and we've now driven out of the snow and we're no longer driving in it.
Set down. It's like a Jeep.
So it is.
Shannon clapping. So as you saw, we picked up Shannon and brought her back north to the old house on the corner here in New York. It's now several days later, and we've been enjoying her visit here. But at the time you're watching this, future us will be taking her back to meet Noah halfway, and she'll return to Virginia. If you saw our last video, the only other video we've posted so far in 2023, you'll recall that we asked for your input. We asked for what kind of things you like about our channel, and what keeps you coming back to watch more. We didn't get as much feedback as we had hoped, but we thank you for those of you who left comments. From what was said, it's apparent that a lot of you come back to our channel because of our genuineness, which we appreciate. The fact that we don't use clickbait, we don't choreograph our scenes, we don't come up with a script. We're just being real people and living our life here in New York and sharing it with you. Despite the fact that even after 3 years we still have only 139 subscribers, the cool thing is that some of you are from outside of our country. We like that. One of the comments left to us by our friends Dries and Jente from the channel The History Hikers said that they like to watch to see what different things we do here in the United States and how we live our lives and go about our daily business. So I happen to think, how about if we, once in a while, show some of the things that go on here and compare the differences between our countries. If you'd like to share some comments about your country too, go ahead and put those down in the comments. Today I thought we'd start with something simple, like how we get our mail. I'm sure this is similar all across the globe, but what are the slight differences that we can find between our countries, or even in states here in the United States? As in many areas of our country, out here in rural New York, we have a postal delivery. Our mailboxes are posted beside the road, and a carrier comes in a vehicle and drops off the mail. Unless there's a package, then they drive up to our back door and drop it off on the porch. As I just mentioned, here in our rural area of New York, we get our mail delivered by a mail or postal carrier by vehicle to our mailbox. As far back as I can remember, in my 54 years and counting, we've always had a mail carrier who drove their personal vehicle with a U.S. mail tag or sign attached to it someplace while they were delivering. However, just recently I've noticed a plain white van with the U.S. mail logo on the front doors. That's a change from the norm. Unlike people who live in town, since we get our mail delivered out here in the country, we don't rent a post office box at the local post office. Nor do we have a mailbox mounted to an exterior wall on our house, usually near the front door, as this mailbox our daughter Brianna is showing you on her house. This is what most people who live in town have. Instead, we typically have a mailbox mounted at window vehicle height, somewhere near the road. Out here in the country, our houses tend to be set back a ways from the road. So, rather than have the mail carrier wasting too much time driving up to everyone's door, the policy here is to have your mailbox accessible on the side of the road, and generally, most, if not all mailboxes on any given road will be mounted on the same side of the road, depending on the driver's route set by the post office. In our case, ours is across the road from the old house on the corner, directly opposite our driveway. Also typical for mailboxes here in rural New York is the fact that most, with a few exceptions, are mounted on a wooden post. It could be an old fence post, an old tree branch or trunk cut to size and set in the ground, or maybe a length of pressure-treated lumber from a hardware store. You can even get special posts already pre-made for mailboxes, although I'm not entirely fond of these for one main reason: they never seem to be long enough. Here in the northeastern part of the United States, you definitely want a post that goes deep enough into the ground so that it gets below the frost line. Otherwise, every time the ground freezes and thaws, you'll get a post heaving and tipping each year until it becomes loose enough to fall to the ground. When I last replaced our post, I cut off a section of the old one that was still good and married it to the end of the new one, just so I could set it deep enough into the ground and not end up with a mailbox the height of my knees. It's also good to have a solid post fixed into the ground, so when the snowplows go up the road in the winter and throw heavy wet snow on it, the post doesn't fall down. We've had a number of mailboxes damaged this way, but the post has never fallen over. Like posts, mailboxes can come in all shapes and sizes. Some fancy and expensive, some homemade, but most of them will usually be like ours, a simple metal box with a common shape, somewhat rectangular with an arched top and having U.S. mail somewhere printed or embossed on the front. There are also people who decorate these boxes to suit their personal taste as well. We've never done that to our box, but it's interesting to see what others have creatively done. Since you may not get mail delivered every day, if you have something you want sent out from your mailbox, you need to raise the red flag when you put your letters inside so the mail carrier will know to stop and pick them up. I'm curious to know where the tradition of having a red flag-shaped indicator started. I suppose I should have looked that up. If you know why it's a red flag, leave the info below in our comments section. I'd also like to know why some mailbox makers opted to have this odd angular-shaped indicator instead of a flag. I'm going to guess that someone decided it was cheaper to punch this shape out of a metal sheet than a bunch of flags. If you subscribe to a local newspaper service, like we have for years, you'll probably also see something like this alongside the mailbox. This is a special box just for the newspaper. They often come in all shapes and sizes as well, but this is a typical one. In days now long past, it was common for the newspaper company to supply you with a box, complete with their paper's name on one or two sides. These days, however, with the rise of costs and fewer subscribers to a physical paper, as opposed to the online digital variety, I doubt many do that anymore. This particular box, made of thick plastic and stuck on a metal garden fence post, has been here since my grandparents owned our house. About the only change we've made to it is to attach a plastic flap to cover the front opening. Remember that heavy wet snow I talked about earlier? It ruins newspapers that are in a box with no front cover. So what types of mail do we get here in rural New York? As you might guess, with the growth of the internet and the digital world, we don't get as much as we used to, or the same types of things we used to. Advertising flyers are much fewer. But we do still get the occasional handwritten letter or birthday and anniversary card from family and friends. Those are always appreciated. And of course, like I'm sure you do, we get bills. We remain a bit old school here at the old house in that we haven't changed everything over to paying online, so we continue to get printed bills in official looking envelopes throughout each week. So that's a little bit about our mail here in rural New York. How is it different from your part of the world? How is it the same? Tell us down below in the comments. We'd like to hear it. And if you are from another country and you would have a suggestion on what we'd like to compare next, go ahead and leave that down below too. You may find us using it for future content. Remember, you can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, so if you're on those platforms, look us up. Well, that's all from now from the old house on the corner. Come back again soon. If you enjoyed this video, we'd love it if you gave us a like down below. If you have any thoughts or questions about the video, feel free to post those in the comments section. And if you aren't yet subscribed, we'd love it if you hit that red subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you know when we post new videos.